What would you do if you caught a serial killer who had killed your own child? You'd be furious, right? You'd want to do unimaginable things to them. In this video, we are going to take you through what a parent's revenge looks like.
The maniac, he is a cunning man. He knows just exactly what moves he's going to make.
Announcing today,
Andrzej Bamberski. Andrzej Bamberski was a devoted father and respected accountant living in France, whose life revolved around his beloved daughter, Kalinka. Born in 1968, Kalinka was a bright and vivacious girl. Despite Andrzej's separation from his wife, Danielle Gonin, they maintained a cordial relationship for the sake of their children, Kalinka and her brother Nicholas. In the late 1970s, Danielle married Dieter Krombach, a German cardiologist. Although Andrzej had reservations about Krombach, he trusted Danielle's judgment. In the summer of 1982, 14-year-old Kalinka went to Germany to spend her holidays with her mother and stepfather, but on July 10th, Andrzej received devastating news. Kalinka had died suddenly. Krombach claimed Kalinka had suffered a heart attack and that he had unsuccessfully tried to revive her with injections. However, the autopsy revealed disturbing findings: signs of sexual assault, unexplained injuries, and a mysterious substance in her system. Despite these findings, German authorities quickly closed the case, ruling her death accidental, which left Andrzej in disbelief and anger. Convinced of Krombach's guilt, Andrzej would not let the case end until he got justice for his daughter. He gathered evidence, including testimonies from other women who accused Krombach of similar crimes. In 1995, a French court convicted Krombach in absentia for the rape and murder of Kalinka, sentencing him to 15 years in prison. However, Germany refused to extradite Krombach, citing a lack of new evidence. This refusal was a crushing blow to Andrzej, who felt increasingly desperate and disillusioned with the justice system. Undeterred, Andrzej launched media campaigns, gave interviews, and wrote letters to international human rights organizations to draw attention to his daughter's case. Despite his tireless efforts, years passed without progress. Frustration mounting, Andrzej considered taking matters into his own hands. By 2009, he had devised a plan to kidnap Krombach and bring him to France to face justice. On October 17, 2009, Andrzej's plan was executed. Krombach was abducted from his home in Germany and transported to France, where he was found bound and gagged outside a courthouse in Mulhouse. French police quickly arrested Andrzej, who admitted to orchestrating the kidnapping, claiming he had no choice but to ensure Krombach faced justice for Kalinka's death. Andrzej's actions were both condemned and celebrated, capturing media and public attention. Some saw him as a desperate father seeking justice, while others viewed him as a vigilante. His story symbolized the lengths a parent would go to for their child, driven by the legal battles and frustrations he faced over the years. Gary Plauché. In the early 1980s, Gary Plauché was a devoted father living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with his young son, Jody Plauché. Their lives took a dark turn when Jeff Doucet, Jody's trusted karate instructor, betrayed that trust in the most horrific way. Jeff Doucet was a well-liked figure in the community, known for his charisma and apparent dedication to the children he taught. The Plauché family, like many others, saw him as a positive influence. In February 1984, Doucet shattered this image by kidnapping 11-year-old Jody. Under the pretense of a trip, Doucet took Jody from Baton Rouge to a motel in Anaheim, California, where he subjected the boy to over a week of unimaginable abuse. The kidnapping sparked a massive search effort, gaining national attention and involving the FBI. The Plauché family endured days of anguish until the FBI traced a phone call Doucet made, leading them to the motel. On March 1st, 1984, law enforcement officers stormed the room, rescued Jody, and arrested Doucet. The relief of Jody's rescue was tempered by the trauma he had endured. Back in Baton Rouge, the community's relief was mixed with outrage as Doucet was extradited to face charges. The legal process was slow, and the emotional toll on the Plauché family was immense. Gary Plauché, in particular, was consumed by rage and helplessness, tormented by the thought of facing Doucet in court. On March 16, 1984, as Doucet was being escorted through the Baton Rouge Metropolitan Airport, Gary Plauché made a fateful decision. Disguised with a baseball cap and sunglasses, he waited by a bank of payphones. The airport was chaotic with reporters and onlookers as Doucet, flanked by officers, was led through the terminal. In a sudden and dramatic moment, Gary pulled out a .38 caliber revolver and fired a single shot at Doucet's head. The entire incident was captured on live television, showing Doucet collapsing to the ground as blood pooled around him. The shocking image was broadcast repeatedly, leaving viewers in disbelief. Law enforcement quickly subdued Gary, arresting him on the spot. The public reaction was swift and intense, with many sympathizing with Gary, seeing his act as a desperate attempt to seek justice for his son. Gary Plauché was ultimately charged with manslaughter. His actions sparked a fierce debate about justice and retribution. David Barajas. David Barajas' case is a tragic and controversial story of a father seeking immediate justice for the death of his son. On 7th, 2012, David Barajas and his two sons, David Jr. and Caleb, were pushing their disabled truck down a rural road near Alvin, Texas, when a drunk driver, Jose Banda, crashed into them. The collision killed 11-year-old Caleb instantly and severely injured 12-year-old David Jr. Overwhelmed with grief and anger, David Barajas Sr. allegedly took matters into his own hands. According to prosecutors, after the crash, Barajas went to his home, retrieved a gun, and returned to the scene. He then shot and killed Jose Banda. Banda was found dead in his car with multiple gunshot wounds. The community was divided on whether Barajas' actions were those of a grieving father seeking immediate retribution or a premeditated act of murder. Barajas was arrested and charged with murder. The trial began in 2014 and was widely publicized, drawing significant media attention. Barajas' defense argued that there was no physical evidence linking him to the shooting. The murder weapon was never found, and gunpowder residue tests on Barajas were inconclusive. The defense maintained that Barajas was simply a distraught father who had lost his son in a tragic accident. During the trial, the prosecution faced significant challenges. They could not produce eyewitnesses who saw Barajas shoot Banda, and there were no fingerprints or DNA evidence connecting Barajas to the crime. Additionally, several character witnesses testified to Barajas's peaceful nature and strong family values, painting him as a devoted father rather than a vengeful vigilante. The jury ultimately found David Barajas not guilty of murder. The verdict sparked mixed reactions. Some people believed that justice had been served, viewing Barajas as a father who acted out of unimaginable grief and stress. Others felt that the lack of evidence had allowed a murderer to go free, which highlighted flaws in the legal system. Van Terry. In June 2015, a Cleveland courtroom witnessed a powerful moment of raw emotion as Van Terry confronted Michael Madison, the man convicted of murdering his teenage daughter, Sherelda Terry. This occurred during Madison's sentencing hearing, a serial killer whose crimes shocked the nation. Madison, a convicted sex offender, had lured and killed 3 women, including Sherelda. Van Terry's palpable pain and anger during his confrontation left a lasting impression on everyone present. Michael Madison's life was marked by instability and early brushes with the law. Born in 1977, he grew up in East Cleveland, a city that later became the backdrop for his horrific crimes. Madison's criminal record began in his teenage years with arrests for drug possession and minor offenses. By 2002, he was convicted of attempted rape and served 4 years in prison, marking him as a registered convicted sex offender. Despite this, Madison managed to evade full scrutiny, allowing his predatory behavior to continue. Madison's crimes were discovered in July 2013 when a foul odor from his East Cleveland home led authorities to investigate. They found the decomposing bodies of 3 women, Angela Deskins, Shatisha Sheely, and Sherelda Terry. Each victim had been lured, betrayed, and murdered by Madison, who took advantage of their trust and vulnerability. Angela Deskins, 28, had been missing for days. Shatisha Sheely, also in her 20s, had been missing for months. And Sherelda Terry, 18, had last been seen leaving her summer job. Madison's neighbors were shocked, unable to reconcile the quiet man they knew with the monster who committed such atrocities. The arrest of Madison provided some relief to the community, but marked the beginning of a painful journey for the victims' families. Van Terry, in particular, was devastated by the loss of his daughter Sherelda, a bright young woman with dreams of becoming a nurse. Her life was brutally cut short by Madison's actions, leaving a void in her family. Michael Madison's trial began in April 2015, drawing significant media attention. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, including DNA samples and witness testimonies, while the defense struggled to find mitigating factors. Emotional testimonies from the victims' families, including Van Terry, highlighted the devastating impact of Madison's crimes. The trial's emotional toll was evident as families recounted their loved ones' bright futures and the voids left by their deaths. Throughout the trial, Madison remained emotionless, deepening the anguish of the victims' families. The jury returned a guilty verdict on all counts after several hours of deliberation. During the sentencing phase, Van Terry's confrontation with Madison became a memorable and heartbreaking moment, displaying a father's raw emotion and desperation for justice. The judge ultimately sentenced Madison to death, providing a measure of closure to the victims' families. However, the emotional scars and memories of their lost loved ones would continue to haunt them. The trial of Michael Madison was a harrowing journey through human cruelty and the enduring strength of those left behind. Antonio Hughes. In a dramatic and emotionally charged courtroom scene, Antonio Hughes, the father of Nilo Latimore, attacked Desian Brown, who is accused of murdering Nilo's mother and throwing the toddler into the Ohio River. The incident occurred during a motion hearing for Brown, who faces severe charges related to these heinous crimes. Hughes, overwhelmed with grief and anger, lunged at Brown in the courtroom, leading to a physical altercation. The sudden attack took everyone by surprise, and court security swiftly intervened to separate the 2 men. Hughes was immediately taken into custody and found in contempt of court for his actions. He was subsequently sentenced to 7 days in jail. The emotional toll of losing his son and the horrific nature of the crime undoubtedly contributed to Hughes' outburst. The courtroom attack underscored the intense pain and frustration felt by families of victims in such tragic circumstances. However, in a surprising turn of events, the judge decided to release Hughes 3 days early, acknowledging the immense emotional strain he was under. This decision likely reflects a degree of compassion for Hughes, who, despite his violent reaction, is himself a victim grappling with an unimaginable loss. Desian Brown, the target of Hughes's attack, was accused of a brutal double crime, stabbing Nilo's mother to death and then disposing of the young child in the Ohio River. These charges paint a grim picture of the events leading up to the courtroom confrontation and highlight the severity of the accusations against Brown. The courtroom attack by Antonio Hughes serves as a reminder of the deep emotional scars left by violent crimes and the sometimes unpredictable ways in which grief and anger can manifest. The system, while upholding the law, also occasionally shows leniency in recognizing the human element behind such outbursts. Willie Field Sr. In the small town of Orangeburg, South Carolina, a tragedy unfolded that would forever change the lives of two families. It all began on a fateful day in August 2019, when 18-year-old Willie Antoine Fields finished his shift at Chick-fil-A and disappeared. His family reported him missing after he didn't return home, setting off a frantic search. The search ended in heartbreak when Willie's mother discovered his abandoned vehicle off Rosewood Drive. Blood stains inside the car raised the alarm, leading investigators to search the nearby woods. There, they found Willie's lifeless body, marked by gunshot wounds to the head and back. The community was stunned, and the Fields family was devastated. The investigation quickly pointed to two brothers, Lindy Lamont Jones, then 19, and his younger brother, J. Lynn Devonaire Jones, 18. Authorities arrested Lindy Jones, who soon confessed to the murder. He admitted to shooting Willie and, along with his brother, disposing of the body in the woods. Despite the confession, the motive behind the brutal killing remained a mystery. As the case moved through the courts, tensions ran high. During a court hearing in July 2022, emotions boiled over. Willie Fields' father, Willie Clay Fields, overcome with grief and anger, attacked Lindy Jones in the courtroom. The confrontation was dramatic, with the grieving father tackling Jones to the ground before being restrained by court officers. Following the attack, Fields was taken into custody by the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Office and later released on a personal recognizance bond. Jones, despite being named a victim in this scenario, did not wish to pursue charges against Fields. Justin Bamberg, Fields' attorney, released a statement expressing the family's remorse for the outburst and seeking prayers and support during this challenging time. Bamberg emphasized that Fields, who is grieving the loss of his son, is not a criminal, but rather a victim of the violence that plagues communities. Family members, including Fields' cousin James Fields, have expressed their support and prayers for Willie Clay Fields and the rest of the family. James Fields described Willie Antoine Fields as a fun-loving and easygoing young man with a promising future. Mark Lunsford. On the night of February 23, 2005, the quiet town of Homosassa, Florida, was plunged into a nightmare. 9-year-old Jessica Lunsford, known for her love of pink, went to bed in her family's mobile home. Her father, Mark Lunsford, kissed her goodnight, not knowing it would be the last time he saw his daughter alive. In the early morning hours, John Coey, a 51-year-old convicted sex offender, slipped into the Lunsford home. Coey, who lived nearby in a trailer with his half-sister, had a long criminal history. He abducted Jessica from her bed and took her to his trailer. The abduction was swift and silent, leaving no immediate signs of struggle. By the time Mark Lunsford awoke, Jessica was already gone. The investigation quickly focused on Coey due to his criminal background and proximity to the Lunsford home. Although Coey initially denied involvement, inconsistencies in his statements raised suspicions. On March 17, 2005, he was arrested for failing to register as a sex offender. During interrogation, Coey confessed to abducting and murdering Jessica. He revealed he had held her captive for several days before burying her alive in a shallow grave. On March 7, 2007, Coey was found guilty of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and sexual battery. The verdict brought a mix of relief and sorrow to the courtroom. For the Lunsford family, it was a moment of bittersweet justice. During the sentencing phase, the prosecution argued for the death penalty, emphasizing the brutal nature of the crime. The defense pleaded for leniency, citing Coey's mental health issues and low IQ. However, the jury recommended the death penalty, and Judge Rick Howard sentenced Coey to death on March 14, 2007. Coey was sent to Florida's death row, but died of natural causes on September 30, 2009, before his execution. Jessica's tragic loss ignited a fire within her father, Mark Lunsford, who became a relentless advocate for stronger laws to protect children from sexual predators. His efforts led to the creation of Jessica's Law, a landmark piece of legislation that has had a profound impact on society. Through his advocacy, Mark Lunsford channeled his grief into ensuring no other child would suffer the same fate as Jessica. Paul Holes and the Golden State Killer. Imagine a criminal so elusive that he evaded capture for over 4 decades, leaving a trail of terror across California. This is the story of the Golden State Killer, responsible for at least 50 rapes and 13 murders. But this tale isn't just about his horrific crimes, it's also about Paul Holes, the relentless investigator who brought him to justice using groundbreaking forensic techniques and sheer determination. The Golden State Killer would break into homes, often targeting couples, subjecting his victims to hours of psychological and physical torment. His modus operandi included binding his victims, ransacking their homes, and committing brutal sexual assaults. The audacity and meticulous planning of these attacks left law enforcement baffled and the community in fear. The initial investigation into the East Area rapist involved extensive collaboration among law enforcement agencies across multiple jurisdictions. Despite their efforts, the rapist seemed one step ahead, meticulously scouting targets and evading capture. Some speculated he had a background in law enforcement or the military. In 1978, the case took a darker turn with the murder of Brian and Katie Maggiore in Rancho Cordova, marking the rapist's escalation to murder. Initially not linked to the East Area rapist, similarities in the modus operandi eventually connected the crimes. The Golden State Killer, also known as the original Night Stalker, often bludgeoned his victims to death after sexual assault, making the case one of the largest manhunts in California's history. Despite extensive efforts, the Golden State Killer remained elusive. Investigators collected a wealth of evidence, including DNA samples, but the technology of the time couldn't make a definitive match. The case grew cold, but the victims and their families never gave up hope. In the early 1990s, advancements in DNA technology linked several crimes, confirming that the East Area rapist and the original Night Stalker were the same person. This revelation reignited the investigation, but the killer's identity remained a mystery. Enter Paul Holes, a young investigator with the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office. With a keen interest in cold cases and a background in forensic science, Holes meticulously reviewed the evidence, looking for overlooked clues. His dedication and innovative approach were key to solving the case. Holes's major breakthrough came in 2001 with a preserved DNA sample providing the killer's genetic profile. Although there was no match in criminal databases, Holes knew DNA was the key to solving the case. In 2013, he explored genetic genealogy, comparing DNA from crime scenes to public databases used for tracing ancestry. Collaborating with genetic genealogist Barbara Ray Venter, Holes uploaded the Golden State Killer's DNA profile to public genealogy databases. In early 2018, they identified a distant relative, allowing them to trace the lineage to Joseph James DeAngelo, a former police officer. The DNA evidence was irrefutable. On April 24, 2018, Joseph James DeAngelo was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder and rape. The arrest sent shockwaves across the nation, and Holes' role in the investigation was widely celebrated. The Golden State Killer, who had eluded law enforcement for over 40 years, was finally behind bars. John Walsh. After the abduction and brutal murder of his 6-year-old son, Adam, in 1981, John Walsh channeled his grief into a relentless crusade for justice. He became the face of America's Most Wanted, a groundbreaking TV show that helped capture over 1,000 fugitives, including some of the most dangerous predators. John and Reve Walsh's life seemed perfect with their son, Adam, born on November 14, 1974. Adam was a bright, energetic child who brought immense joy to their lives. However, their world was shattered on July 27, 1981, when 6-year-old Adam was abducted from a Sears department store in the Hollywood Mall. On that fateful day, Reve took Adam to the mall for a routine shopping trip. While she was browsing, Adam asked to watch older boys play a video game at a nearby kiosk. Reve agreed, thinking it would be safe for a few minutes. When she returned, Adam was gone. Despite frantic searches and calls, Adam had vanished without a trace. The search for Adam was immediate and intense. Local law enforcement, volunteers, and the media joined forces, distributing flyers and broadcasting his story widely. The Walsh family clung to hope, but their worst fears were realized 2 weeks later when Adam's severed head was found in a drainage canal over 100 kilometers from the mall. His body was never recovered. Adam's abduction and murder shocked the nation, leading to widespread outrage and calls for justice. Devastated but determined, John Walsh channeled his grief into advocacy, fighting for missing children and victims' rights. In 1981, he and Reve established the Adam Walsh Child Resource Center to promote legislative reform and public awareness about child abductions. John Walsh's advocacy caught national attention, leading to the creation of America's Most Wanted, a show harnessing the media's power to capture fugitives. The show became instrumental in solving high-profile cases, such as the capture of John List and Richard Steve Goldberg. John List, who murdered his entire family in 1971 and lived under an assumed identity for 18 years, was captured in 1989 after America's Most Wanted aired a segment on him. An age-progressed bust created by forensic sculptor Frank Bender led to a viewer tip, resulting in List's arrest. In another shocking case, serial killer and rapist Richard Steve Goldberg, on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list, was captured in 2006 after a segment on the show. A viewer in Canada tipped off authorities, leading to Goldberg's arrest and subsequent life sentence. The show's success extended internationally. In 2008, America's Most Wanted played a crucial role in capturing Cesar Lorian, a U.S. Marine who fled to Mexico after murdering a pregnant colleague. Viewer tips led to his arrest by Mexican authorities and extradition to the U.S., where he was sentenced to life without parole. John Walsh's transformation of personal tragedy into a mission for justice has left an indelible mark on crime-fighting efforts, making him a prominent figure in advocating for victims and capturing criminals. Marianne Bachmeier. Born in 1950 in post-war Germany, she faced numerous challenges that shaped her strong-willed character. Her childhood was marked by instability, with her parents' tumultuous marriage ending in divorce, leaving Marianne and her siblings to navigate a fractured family dynamic. Determined to create a better life for herself, she left home at a young age and took on various jobs to support herself. In her early 20s, Marianne married Dieter Bachmeier, and in 1973 they welcomed their daughter, Anna. Despite the eventual separation from Dieter, Marianne remained a devoted single mother, working tirelessly to provide for Anna and fostering a strong bond with her. Anna was a bright and cheerful child, well liked by peers and teachers, and her mother took immense pride in her. Tragically, on May 5th, 1980, Anna went to her neighbor's house and never came back. After frantic hours of searching, Marianne's worst fears were confirmed when Anna's lifeless body was discovered in a cardboard box. The investigation quickly led to Klaus Grabowski, a 43-year-old convicted sex offender with a history of child molestation. Grabowski had lured Anna into his home, strangled her with his fiancé's tights, and discarded her body. The brutality of the crime devastated Marianne and shocked the community. The trial of Klaus Grabowski began on March 6, 1981, in Lübeck, West Germany. Marianne attended every day, a haunting reminder of the tragedy. She sat just meters away from the man who had brutally taken her daughter's life, enduring the excruciating details of Anna's murder and Grabowski's unremorseful demeanor. The Marianne, who struggled to contain her fury as the defense attempted to mitigate Grabowski's actions, portraying him as a victim of his circumstances. This only enraged Marianne further, and her emotional state became increasingly fragile. On the third day of the trial, March 8, 1981, Marianne reached her breaking point. As Grabowski testified, she felt a surge of rage she could no longer contain. She had smuggled a small caliber pistol into the courtroom and in a moment of desperation stood up and fired 7 shots at Grabowski, hitting him 6 times and killing him instantly. The courtroom erupted into chaos and Marianne was immediately arrested. The shooting sent shockwaves through the community, sparking a fierce debate about justice and morality. The media dubbed Marianne the Revenge Mother.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like, subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss an episode. Till next time, take care and stay safe.